Okay, we're talking about developing a biblical work ethic. And maybe before we get into that, I think you all have the handout. I don't promise you that that handout is exactly the same as my slides now, because for me, it's not over until it's over. I'm adjusting every moment of the way until I'm done. So there might be some differences, but not very big. But maybe before we get into developing a biblical work ethic, I would like us to go a couple of steps back and ask ourselves what our goal is in parenting our children. I'd like to hear from maybe 2 or 3 people what your goals are as a couple, as mom and dad, as you parent your children. Can I hear from 2 or 3 people, please? What are your parenting goals? What do you want to see? Yes, at the back. I can't see your name, sorry.
I wanted to say great kids.
Great kids?
Yes.
That's a big one. What are you going to do? I mean, what's great? Great is a big word. What do you see in great? Maybe that will help us to understand your goals.
No, that they can do better than I have done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. Someone else? One last person? Yes, at the back. You want disciplined and God-fearing children. Okay, the reason I ask us to think about goals is because, like a business, when you're starting a business, you have a vision and a mission, and that's what drives you. Everything you do is kind of fit into that vision and mission, and it helps you to stay focused. So I want us also to get into the habit of thinking about what do we want to see at the end of our parenting journey, if there is an end to the parenting journey. Because I think there's also another phase of parenting. When you're parenting adult children, it's a different ball game. But let's have that at the back of our mind. Because I think if we keep reminding ourselves of what we are doing, what we want to see at the end of this journey, it will help us to remain focused and not to be haphazard, you know. One day rolls into another and another and another, and then before you know it, your kids are grown and gone. And you didn't really have a focused goal. So let's keep that at the back of our minds. Okay, now we can move into parenting our kids. I wrote something, developing a biblical work ethic. I wrote something down: to raise a God-fearing, autonomous, responsible, productive citizen who will thrive in this world and rise to their God-given potential and destiny, and will make a contribution towards making the world a better place. Just food for thought. Maybe it will help you develop something of your own if you haven't already. So each family should develop their own goal and start doing something about it, because it's not just going to happen. Kids don't just grow up to be, as Edward was saying, great kids. You have to work at it. Part of that process involves teaching our children the value and dignity that comes from working. The Bible says in Proverbs 22:6, a very familiar verse, train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not turn from it. Okay, so everybody counts. God worked. We all need to work. And chores are something that comes very, very naturally in all of our homes. Chores are our introduction, are the way that we introduce our children to work. All family members need to be involved. You have the slides, so I'm just kind of going to go through it. I think as we think about everybody working, we need to realize that even God worked. The creation account in Genesis 1 is an account of God working. It says in Genesis 2, verse 2, by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So there was actually a time at which the assignment, if we can call it an assignment, was finished. God had finished the work he had been doing. And then in 2:15, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and care for it and take care of it. So we also need to start our children on this journey, this discipline of work, by just engaging and involving them in the routine tasks that need to be attended to every day in each of our homes. The first thing I'd like us to do is to consider how we get started on this discipline of teaching our children. By the time you're in a school here, it means your kids are, at least 4, 5, 6 and older, because they've started school. So I'm sure you're already on this journey, but for the benefit of those that could learn a thing or two from this, we'll go through this. Don't assign what you haven't taught. If you haven't taught your kids, that's self-explanatory. If you haven't taught them how to do it, don't expect them to do it. Show them how to do it first. Hands-on. Then you need to model what you have taught, because your children are observing you every day. And whether you're aware of it or not, whether you like it or not, you're passing on values, different values, including values to do with your attitude towards work. If only the mother in the home and the kids and the house help participate in the chores at home, dads, you're passing on a value. If the rest of the family is only involved in doing the chores at home when your house help is on leave, again, you're passing on a value. If there are certain chores that are always and only done by the house help, again, you're passing on a value. What do I mean by all that? All work is honorable. All work should and can be done by all of us. There's no work that is only for certain people, is only for house help. And also, don't wait until you send the house help away for Christmas to get your children involved. Working at home should be an ongoing, daily engagement. Because every time someone drinks a glass of water, a glass needs to be washed. Every time someone gets dressed and goes out, some laundry will need to be done, even if it's only socks and underwear, because some of us wear our clothes more than once. And that's okay. It is. So, chores don't end. You can wash the dishes and next time you look in the sink, there's a cup and a knife. So we need to let our children know that because these are things that we create, the work is work that we create ourselves. They need to know that it needs to get done. And I know that nowadays school is very, very busy. Hopefully, Vine International Christian Academy is not as busy as some other schools I know. 6:30, you see kids are being dropped in school and they don't get picked up until 5 o'clock with loads of homework. Anyway, I hope that point has been taken. Okay, I'm going backwards and forwards here. Okay, now I'm going to, because we've observed in the notes that children develop differently. In the tips about work, when considering chores, remember that children mature differently. So the assignments you're going to give your 5 or 6-year-old are not the same assignments you're going to give your 12, 13-year-old or even your 17 and 18-year-old. They mature differently, and like adults, they do what you inspect, not necessarily what you expect. If you're not looking, some things will not get done. Then also, some days are just off days. We don't feel like doing the work. Now, that doesn't mean we don't do it, but I'm just saying that in a family setting, you need to bear that in mind. It shouldn't be a habit, but just bear in mind that your 10-year-old one Saturday morning will wake up and will be very slow doing everything. Some days are just off days. We don't want to encourage laziness, but at the same time, we don't want to be slave drivers. You don't want to run around with a whip, getting everybody out of bed at 6 o'clock on Saturday because we have to go and dig and start on the chores. I think there are certain considerations that we need to bear in mind, put into consideration. Okay, because children mature differently, I have tried to break it down into age groups, chores that different age groups can do, work that we can assign to children at different ages. Now, I've only made a few suggestions. In your own home, there will be things that you can see that you know that your child can do at a given, in a given age group. So do feel free to add to this list. It's not conclusive and it's not cast in stone, and I didn't read it in the Bible. There's nothing sacred about it. One thing we need to bear in mind is that young children are usually very keen to work, to help the little ones, the 2-year-olds and the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds. Now, I consider that a wave. It's an opportunity that doesn't always show up as our kids grow older. So we need to tap into this opening and ride on the wave. So when your 2-year-old wants to help you wash the clothes, let your 2-year-old help you wash the clothes. It's going to be messy. It's going to be wet. But the idea behind it is get them involved. Get them to get their hands into the work when they still want to do it. And just prepare that it's going to take you a little longer, and it's going to be, by the time you're done, he or she will be wet. The floor will be wet. The clothes will not be clean. But you know that, the message is sinking. Don't discourage small children when they want to work. So 18 months to 3 years, they require your help, of course, and involvement. But they can put their dirty clothes when they undress for the end of the day. They can put their clothes into the designated dirty clothes place, whether it's a laundry basket or a basin or a corner in the bathroom, whatever it is. Children that young can put their clothes there. They can also tidy up and put away their playthings, their toys, picking something up and putting it into the box or the basket or whatever they put their toys in. They can make the bed, not very well, but get started, because beds are among those things that we use every day. So the sooner somebody learns to make their own bed, the better for you. They can wipe a spill. It may require a repeat, but get them involved. They can also put trash into the designated place. You need to be involved. You need to clap and praise and affirm as they do these things. Then don't expect your 2-year-old to follow through on the assignment if you're not watching, because they are very easily distracted. So you need to supervise. And some of these things, as we talk about them at the younger ages, will carry through all through your children's lives. You need to keep looking back to make sure that things are being done. The Bible talks about, in the creation story, that the Bible talks about God saw that the light was good when it was time to do the light. And then, this is verse 4, then verse 10 and 12 and 18 and several other verses in Genesis 1. And God saw that it was good, which means that God was looking back, taking stock, monitoring as he was doing his work, and he saw that it was good. So it's important that we keep track of the work that is being done. We keep monitoring, not just for 18-month-olds and 3-year-olds, but all through. Then moving on, ages 4 and 5, they are very anxious to learn new skills. And they might be able to do some things by themselves. Again, I have a few examples of things that you can ask your 4 and 5-year-old to do. They can dress up. They might do a lot more color blocking than you like. So you can help them match things, the right colors that go with different colors. They need choice, but that is something they can do for themselves. And since that is something we do a lot, it will help if you can get your children to do it by themselves. Sometimes the shoes will be on the wrong feet, but it's a starting place. Encourage them. They can clean their own shoes. They can set the table and clear it. Again, you need to affirm. You need to supervise. And to motivate them, you can use little stars, these sticky stars, or draw your own colorful stars or little something or other to put on a chart. Now, charts I found when we were parenting, I don't know what you guys do nowadays, I found them very, very helpful, very motivational. They help the child to know what to do without you having to tell them. Plus, all those stars work like magic. The stars and the stickers, they're very motivational for young children. You might need to do other things as the kids grow older and the stars aren't as meaningful, but for this age group, they work like magic. Ages 6 and 7, more energy. They're a lot more independent. They want to be outdoors a lot more. They have a mind of their own, what they want to do. So they begin to realize that the chores they need to take care of are taking up time that they would rather use doing something else. So the motivation has to be upped a little, and also the supervision to make sure that the attitude is right. Because someone wants to go out and play, there's a tendency to get grumpy. and to complain about work. So here you need to mind the attitude, and you need to monitor and ensure that work is being done. And for all kids, make sure that they understand that nothing but the best is good enough. Nothing but their best. And you will notice that different children have different bests. Just like in academics, not everybody is an A student, but everybody has a personal best. And that's all we require of our children, is their best. So even as they do their work, make sure that they are doing their best. Ask them. And kids know when they are not doing their best. And if you ask them, is this the best you could do? They will know. And they're harder. By the way, they set higher standards for themselves sometimes than we set for them. If you ask them, do you think this is your best? Maybe I could have done a little better. So keep holding them to account, requiring their best. Even if it's not perfect, it needs to be their best. At this time, kids understand money. They know a 500 shilling from a 1,000. So you can begin to give a little money. And when I say this to parents, their first reaction is, what? Pay children to do things at home? The idea here is, yes, in a way you're paying them, but the idea here is you're introducing the concept of money. And money is one of those powerful things that we all need to learn what to do with. Is it all for spending? Do we save it all? Do we leave it around and then in the next couple of days we don't know where we put it? So this is a good time to start giving your children a little money, not 20,000 a week for a 6 or 7-year-old. 500 shillings, 1,000, 2,000, that's plenty of money. And then when you start giving them money, maybe you can give it for work that has been done out of their own initiative, or work that has been done exceptionally well, or they went out of their way, maybe they helped another sibling. Then you start teaching them about stewardship of money. You teach them that a certain percentage goes into tithing, and a certain percentage or some amount of it goes into savings. And then some we can give to others. And then some we can spend on ourselves. This is a good time to teach children, and you can have little jars or envelopes or piggy banks that they can separate the money. So for 6 and 7-year-olds, I think it's a good time to introduce money into the equation and to start teaching about stewardship. They now have begun to make money. Isn't that what work is all about? Kind of. Okay, the next group, ages 8 to 11. This age, you definitely will need to track what they're doing and how they're doing it. Charts, again, I found very helpful. And now they can read, they can tick. The stars may not be as meaningful, the stars and the stickers may not be as meaningful, but you can use the ticks or the different marks that they make for assignments and chores taken care of to make a weekly tally of performance, kind of like an evaluation of how things have been done. And then you can use that for your reward system. Affirm and reward good performance and good attitude again. Because it's not good enough to have a perfect job when you've been grumpy all through the process. Nobody likes a grumpy worker. We want to reward good attitude as well. We want them to learn that whatever they do, they should do it with all their might. Ecclesiastes 9:10. And we also want them to learn that whatever they do, Colossians 3:23 and 24, to do it with all their heart as working for the Lord. Not for men, not for mommy and daddy necessarily, but as to the Lord, because it is the Lord who rewards. And it is the Lord we are serving. And I have a list there of different assignments that kids between the ages of 8 and 11 could do. You could add your own based on your own household and the things that happen there. Ages 12 to 13, pre-teens and entering into the teens. Expectations have to be very clearly spelled out, including how soon you want the work done. Because from this point onwards, people have their own mind about when work should be done. Something that you want done on a Wednesday, someone may decide they will do it on Friday. So timelines have to be communicated. If Friday is okay, then that's okay. And by the way, if you're not going to supervise these timelines, then don't give them, because they catch on very fast. At some point, my children were, when they got to secondary school and they were in boarding school, we would leave them at home during the day. And of course, both my husband and I would be gone to work. This is maybe in their mid-teens. And there were certain things we wanted them to take care of during the course of the day. But because we were not going to be there, we couldn't exactly say, wake up at this time, have your breakfast by this time, do this at this time. So we would tell them, if you want to sleep the whole day, that's okay. But just remember, you also have A, B, C, and D to take care of. And by the time we get back at the end of the day, A, B, C, and D better be done. And that way, even though we were not there to supervise, we knew that it needed to be done. So some days I would walk in and somebody's just drying up the kitchen sink. They've just finished washing the dishes, because I would tell them I do not want to find any dirty dishes in the sink when I get back. Also, this is the time when, if you haven't spelled out the expectations clearly, there will be a bit of, what shall I call it, passing the buck, If you haven't assigned this work to this person and this work to this person, there will be a lot of, I thought so-and-so was supposed to do that. There are times when you can say, between you, work out who is doing what. But these are the assignments for today. This is the work that you need to do today. Work out who is doing who is doing what. And there were many times when we came home and one person would grumpily be doing something and saying, I did it. It was supposed to be the other one, but I did it because I saw it was almost time for you to come home and it wasn't done yet, and I knew you would get angry if you came back and found it not done. And at that point, I explained, if you have agreed who is supposed to do it, then that person should do it. If they haven't done it, it's difficult to say he or she, because I have one he and one she. So that's why I keep talking very vaguely, so you don't know which one. But if that person hasn't done their assignment, then I will take that person on. So don't feel like you have to do it because you're worried that we'll come back and it won't be done. And that helped. All that to say, please be very specific. Expectations, timelines. Consider paying for extra initiative. And when we introduced the concept of money for extra initiative, so much got done. The windows got cleaned. The bookshelves were dusted practically every day. Our shoes were sparkling, things that we haven't assigned, and somebody just sits there and reckons, how can I make a little extra money today? So, reward initiative, you'll be amazed at the jobs people will invent and do so that they can get paid. We also had a reluctant reader. So at some point, at the age when reading is not quite there, and you want them to read a lot of books so that they can get better and better at their reading. So we decided for every chapter that you read, you will get a certain amount of money. Man, so many chapters were read. At the end of the day, someone would come and tell you, I read this many chapters, and we had a specific amount for every chapter read. And then would be told, but these 2 chapters were short, so you can pay me the amount per chapter for these 2 together, because they were short chapters, but I read this, and this. And we got people reading. Now they're both very avid readers. Of course, they're adults, but yeah. Sometimes even for something like that, you have to come up with ways to get people to do what they need to do. Okay, at this age also, you can encourage business ventures. Someone may decide they want to start selling something to make money. Don't discourage them. Try and encourage. There are some that you can see right through and this is going to be a flop. But encourage them to do it anyway, as long as they're not asking for a 200,000 shilling loan. Encourage them to use some of their money to do this so that they can learn from the experience what works and what doesn't work. Ages 14 to 15, once again, expectations, timeliness. They can do a lot of work, and by this time they can do it by themselves. And the thing to watch out for at this point is timeliness, attitude, quality of work. We want people to work cheerfully, acknowledge their work, affirm them, and reward initiative again. In this place also, money is a good motivator, and continue to teach stewardship. Also, at this age, you can consider giving a regular stipend or pocket money, which they don't necessarily work for. But again, you're trying to encourage them to learn how to use money, to learn what to do with money. And then when you start giving them this money, you need to stop buying everything for them. Like you may go shopping with your teenager and they want maybe a book or some gadget or something. Encourage them to save up and buy this gadget for themselves. It will help them to regulate the quality, the brand, the price, because now it's going to come from them. If it's going to come from you, they'll give you specifications which even you may not be able to meet for your own gadget or whatever it is that they want. But encourage them to save up. And that way they also understand that you can't always buy what you want on the first visit. Sometimes you check out the price and you determine what you need to sacrifice in order to be able to raise that money, which is a good thing for them to learn for even when they start working and are earning money. You can't go spend your entire salary on one thing because there are other demands on that money. Ages 16 to 18, these are now your pre-adult kids. They're almost leaving home. And by this time, they ought to be able to do everything for themselves, really. They should be able to cook, to clean, to do their laundry. They should be able to do shopping. Sometimes even their own clothes. You will find that you're better off allowing them to buy their own clothes than to buy them clothes which they will not wear. They can help with cleaning the car and cleaning the compound. Now notice I have not made a distinction between responsibilities that should be for the girls and responsibilities that should be for the boys. Because I think it's important for all kids to learn to do everything. So teach your kids to be able to do all the jobs, even the jobs that are traditionally known to be men's work or women's work. I think I learned to do just about everything. The only thing I didn't learn to do is slashing, and I wish I had. But to this day, if I hit the grass with a slasher, I might be able to pick up some soil, but the grass doesn't go. So I wish somebody did not think that was boys' work. I wish they had taught me how to slash, but that's the one thing to this day I do not know how to do. And I have tried to teach myself. I think I've given up now. Okay, I want us to also look at some work-related facts. Did you know that the Ugandan workforce productivity is currently among the lowest globally? By workforce productivity, I'm talking about the amount of goods and services that a worker produces in a given amount of time. I used some charts there that may not be very clear for you, but essentially they're showing that the productivity of a Ugandan, okay, let's say a Chinese person on the first little chart. The vertical axis is a percentage difference in value added per worker. And the horizontal axis has the countries. The little bar chart that goes up is for China. And the basis is India. China scores 28 in the percentage value added per worker. India is the base, that's the zero line. Kenya happens to be at the same level as India. Zambia is minus 22. Tanzania is minus 39.9. And Uganda, a whopping minus 68. They say that one Kenyan worker can do the work of 6 Ugandans. And one Tanzanian can do the work of 4 Ugandans. Does that amaze you that in some industries you will find people are bringing in expatriates? This may sound funny, but it's actually alarming. And I think that as today's parents, we have the major responsibility of turning that around in our children by teaching them to do their best, to work hard, to be loyal, to be on time, to be productive. The next chart is similar. It shows the median annual value added per worker in manufacturing in selected developing countries. Again, China is the highest with 4,379, Kenya 3,457, India 3,000 2,432. Zambia, 2,680. Tanzania, 2,061. And Uganda, 1,085. So friends, we have a lot of work to do to change this, to develop a culture in our children that respects work, hard work, good work, and productivity. Because in both these figures, Uganda has the worst numbers. Of course, along the way, there will be other players who will help in training our children in the school, in different places, but the primary responsibility, parents, is ours. We can delegate, but at the end of the day, the Lord is not going to go after the church or the school. He's going to ask us. We are responsible, and we need to model and teach the value of work and show our children that get-rich-quick schemes are not the way to go. Even as Christians praying for financial breakthrough, there's nothing wrong with that prayer. I think we should all pray for financial breakthrough, but that does not give us permission to sit back and wait for our financial breakthrough, to fast and pray until something happens. Push. Those are the slogans we hear nowadays. Praying is a good thing, and we all need to be prayerful, and we need to teach our children to pray fervently. But we also need to teach them to listen to what the Lord is telling them to do about a certain situation, what their part is. Because God will do the supernatural, but often He assigns us the natural. So hard work, loyalty, good attitude, good interpersonal relationships, saving and investing in other things, timeliness, being punctual. There's a time for everything. Living a balanced life. It's not all work, 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 or play, 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 or the other things in between. There is a time for everything under heaven. And above all, contentment and the fear of God. So I think I will end it here and see if there's any additions, comments, questions. Is that okay? All right.
Thank you, Beatrice. Well, I think you can sit for a while. Yeah, it's a time for questions. So we've listened. Do we have questions? We're doing well. We have 30 minutes for that. Yeah. Good. There are two hands there. Can we take that? Yes, go ahead. Yes. Oh, there is a... I think use this.
Yeah, thank you. That was interesting. Those are some fascinating statistics about taking 6 Ugandans to do the work of 1 Kenyan. It just blows my mind because I'm also Ugandan, and so is Dr. Chapman. you just wonder what the factors are. That would be a fascinating study. And I bet you some of it has to do with the culture of time in Uganda. We like to, including me, like to take our time to get places because we don't want to be the first ones there and we don't want to sit. But I was just wondering if Auntie Beatrice, I was very fascinated and intrigued where these sources came from. It looks like we can't read it very well, but it says World Bank. Is that where those statistics came from about the productivity? And what were the years that the study was done? Okay. Do you think things have improved, that they need to do another study?
Next.
If my child is 18 plus, and of course after your presentation I've realized that he's very lacking. I also didn't do my part well, and he's still within my borders. I mean, he's still at home. Is there a way I can redeem whatever I haven't done? Is he still teachable? Can you say something about that? How I can redeem the situation?
Thank you, Beatrice. I just wanted to find out about the Chinese and their productivity. Does it consider the quality of the work, of the products that they do? Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. Beatrice, thank you very much for what you said. I like what you hear, everything you said. But there is a comment I want to make. Sometimes we get, and I want to be very sensitive, but sometimes we get into the spin of creating an all-round person, the all-round girl who can do everything, the all-round boy. But I think there's also a little bit biblical that girls will do certain things in their own nature better than boys, and also boys will do certain things in their own nature better than girls. And also we guys, there are also certain things which you don't even to ask me to do it. And it's my nature. Like turning on the TV. Seriously. It is not like I don't want to do the dishes. I would do them. Common sense would help me do them. But I think there's also a danger line when we say you have to be everything. There's something we call in my line of work, there's some bit about specialization. That somebody, and there's also agreement in that area, that this is your area, this is my area. We can help each other at some of the time, but let's also give ourselves space. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Patrick. I raise especially into the statistics. I think apparently I've seen a new one. Apparently now we are better than Kenyans. As of, I don't know. I've seen it doing rounds, so I don't know what to believe. It's there. I do not know which one to believe. But I'm raising on one point. To what extent is the nation involved? And I speak because I'm in the construction industry. I have supervised the Kenyans, I have supervised Chinese. And one time I sat with the head of PPDA. They have totally written off Ugandans. There is this belief that we are unable. And I asked this lady, do you have children? She said, yes, I have one doing engineering. And I said, are you sure you can afford to say that Ugandans are not capable of doing anything? I don't think that this is entirely upon us as parents. I think the nation has a role to play, and this is why I'm asking. To what extent is the nation involved in molding? There's people I went to school with in Rwanda. They were classmates. I cannot believe the way they have been encouraged to believe in themselves and what they are capable of doing. And we're classmates. We literally were in the same environment. So to what extent can the nation encourage its people to believe in themselves and to be inspired to do better than we think we are able to do?
Good. We will take 2 more questions and then, yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gertrude Karugaba. I have 2 issues. One is a comment on values. I think many times we get caught up in Kenyans are better than us and Chinese are better than us, but the values, I'm sure some of you have worked with Kenyans, you can see they don't care. They don't care about, yes, it's true, personal relationships. They don't care about them. So I think as we task-oriented, precisely, as we raise our children, I think we still need to teach them fundamentals, good manners, social graces, care about people, not just about, statistics. I get to work at 8. I don't care whether someone is unwell and things like that. But my question is, Beatrice, at what point do we introduce career? Because when we work, okay, now we have to transition from housework to something that builds the nation. How do we and when do we introduce career? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Enyimo, and Beatrice, thanks for the presentation you've made. My question is to do with this issue about passion in your work, because there's a sense of work as duty, but also where work flows with creativity, like people who are into the arts, maybe fine art or, I guess it ties to the question on career. How do we foster that without giving the impression that somebody is being negligent on the other fringes of, the scope of work? Thank you.
Good. So Beatrice, let's take those. The mic is
Hard questions, all of them. I didn't get all your names, but the first person who spoke was asking about what the factors are. I don't remember the question now. I stopped in mid-sentence and started writing. Maybe you could. Did you have a question, by the way? You made a comment. The Ugandan lady. You're the only one who admitted to being Ugandan. Lynn. Or the statistics. Okay, yes. I wanted to turn that question back to you. Are we doing any better?
Martin should tell us.
I mean, what's your observation in your environment, in your sphere of influence? Are we doing any better? I think in general, things have not changed a whole lot. They probably have changed some, but not a whole lot. And these figures are general. There are always exceptions. There are always exceptions. There are some very diligent, focused, hard workers among Ugandans. We do have some people who work really hard. They come in and they sit down or stand up or whatever, however they do their work. and they do a good job. But I think when you look at the 30, how many million Ugandans, those that are working, I think the general statistics have not changed very much. Maybe now it takes 5 Kenyans to do, one Kenyan to do the work of 5 Ugandans instead of 6. But we just haven't got a very good work attitude in general. There are exceptions, but the general picture is still very bleak. Then another parent asked, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, Jolly, if your child is 18 and you feel you didn't do your work right, is he still teachable? Is there anything that you can do to redeem the situation? Teachable, yes. Easy, no. Because you're dealing with an adult now. And so you have to tread very, very delicately. That is not to say those of us that have younger children should, be harsh and mean and everything. But with older kids, you're now talking with an adult. And so you cannot use the same tactics that we used with our 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds. And even with your 12-year-old, you don't use the same tactics that you use with your 8-year-old. So we need to bear in mind that as people grow, we need to learn to accept that they've grown up. And even the ones that we have spent a lot of effort teaching, sometimes when they grow up, they don't do things exactly the way we taught them. But if we have done our part, then we need to accept that you're dealing with an individual who has their own mind and has made their own decision. So, yes, tread gingerly, but remember that these are adults who have also made choices. Sometimes it may be better to work through somebody else that is not as direct, because with parents and children, there's a way in which we sometimes rub each other the wrong way. So sometimes it may work better if you work with another adult that they respect and listen to and would not be as big of an issue as it is with you. And for those of us that still have children in our home, it's always good to have an adult ally. Someone that can get to your kids in some areas, and also someone that your kids know they can talk to when they can't get through to you. But it has to be somebody that you feel comfortable with, where okay, if my kids are talking to Norman and Olga, I know they're in good hands. I know that the counsel you'll give them is the kind of counsel that I would give them. So have some adult allies around you as parents that can also speak to your children about certain areas. Then someone asked about the Chinese and their productivity. Does it consider quality? I have seen many products made by the Chinese. They always put made in China on their stuff. There's stuff that is made in China that even a 2-year-old can destroy without trying. There is stuff that is made in China that is very good quality. I think the Chinese have developed their market to the point where if you can only afford to pay so much, they have a product for you. And if you can afford to pay this much, they also have the same product for you. They may even look exactly the same. Actually, a friend who used to, I don't know if she still does, who used to trade in products from China, told me that, you go into a place, you see maybe a handbag, and you say, that's what I want. And they go and make those handbags for you. But before they go, they will ask you, what price? Do you want the $2 handbag or do you want the $20 handbag? And this friend who was telling me told me that the $2 handbag are the ones you'll find Chikubo, down there. And the $20 ones are the ones you'll find in Winner Classic. So the Chinese do pay attention to the quality depending on the market for which they are producing the stuff. I think there are some people who trade with China who go in knowing I want quality stuff that I can sell for a high price, and there are others who go in to bring as much as they can of whatever they can find and bring it and sell it to the wider Ugandan market. So just remember that as you go shopping for Chinese products. Okay, Martin. Getting into the spin of creating an all-round person and not taking into account that there are some things that boys are better than at and some things that girls are better than. Girls and boys. That is true. And I believe that all children should learn to do everything. Not all of them will be perfect at everything. I believe that all of them should be required to do their best at everything. So even between the girls, there'll be girl responsibilities that one of your daughters will do better than another. And even the boy responsibilities, one of your sons will do better than the others. But what we require of each of our children is their best. If somebody comes home and only your 10-year-old is home, he should be able to offer them a glass of juice or a bottle of soda or a cup of tea. You don't have to call on the maid to do that. So what we are saying is teach your children everything. You don't know where they'll end up. You don't want your sons marrying at 20 simply because they need somebody to do their laundry and cook for them. Or your daughters marrying at 16 simply because they need a man to look after them. So we want our children to learn these things, not because they are girl things or boy things, but so that they can be fairly independent and can do everything. And can be, what if you only have sons? Or what if you only have daughters? They also need to participate in those things at home. And if they specialize in an area, well, get the bathroom scrubber, the specialized bathroom scrubber, to be the one who scrubs the bathroom. It may end up being the sex that you don't think should be doing it, but yeah, specializing is not a bad thing. But being a jack of all trades and mastering in some is also a good thing. Patrick, you've seen some statistics that say we are now better than the Kenyans, and that may be true, may not. To what extent is the nation involved? I believe that there are other players who will help us with teaching our children to be good workers, but the primary responsibility lies with us as parents, particularly since we have them in those formative, impressionable, most teachable years. Let's do the foundation. Let's get them started off on the right footing so that by the time other players come in, we have given them even the right mindset, the right values, really. There will be other people who will have input, but I think we need to give them the foundation. You cannot send your son out at age 24 or 22 whenever he graduates from university and expect that the government is going to groom him into the worker that he's going to be. And Rwanda has done a lot of things that we hear a lot about, and maybe there are a few things that we can learn from them. But let's not think that government is yatuyamba, that the government is going to help us. The children do not belong to the government. The children belong to us. Gertrude, we need to care about values. True. And that's why I kept emphasizing attitude, you know, work-life balance, interpersonal relationships. Those are the things, the finer skills that helps us be complete people. I heard of a study that says that our education contributes 15% of our success, and that the rest, the 85%, is contributed by who we are, our character, personalities, those things. So yes, let's teach our children to be courteous, to be kind, to be generous, to be all those good things that make the person complete. At what point do we introduce career? Career is one of those things that kind of, should I say, evolves in the life of a child. As children grow, they start out, most boys start out wanting to be truck drivers or pilots, and then they want to be, you've heard those things with your children, yeah? My daughter at some point wanted to be a gymnast. So we got books and we, whatever they come up with, expose them to it and help them to learn it. It will change many times before. And then there are some kids who decide they want to be something, and they'll say that when they're 5, and you hear it again when they're 10, and even in their mid-teens, and they eventually end up, doing what they said. So the onus is not really on you to introduce the career, but to listen, to be attentive to the interests of your children and help them to get the exposure. Bring them to your workplace so that they know, what kind of work you do and a person in your profession does. And so that when they think of mommy at work or daddy at work, they have a picture in their minds of what they're doing. That may interest them. But also, schools usually have field trips to go and see this kind of thing or the other kind of thing, and children pick up. So at whatever point when they express, let us help them to learn as much as we can help them learn about a certain profession. Some are harder than others. Our son wanted to be a pilot. I think deep down in his heart, he still wants to be a pilot. But we just couldn't afford to send him to flying school. So we encouraged him to do his next best passion, which was chemistry. He studied industrial chemistry in university. And he told us, I think around end of first year, beginning of second year, that he did not see himself spending his life doing industrial chemistry. So we encouraged him to finish, and he finished, and now he's a musician. So things change, things change as the kids grow. But I think our job, the best we can do, is to expose them as much as possible to the things they express interest in, and also teach them what they need to do. Sometimes it's our natural strengths that take us in a certain direction. If your child wants to be an engineer when they grow up and they do poorly at maths and physics, then maybe you need to encourage them to explore other ventures. Other kids want to do something and they do pretty well at everything, and you just need to tell them, well, you need to work very, very hard at this one, and they will focus on that area. They can switch to whichever area. They're all-rounders. And I think that takes us into Joseph's question about passion in your work. I think when we were growing up, my generation, we were told where the money was. Of course, there were some professions which were told, it's a good profession, there's no money there. But there were other professions where they told us that if you study this, people there make money. Probably had something to do with why I studied economics. And the closest I came to practicing economics was home economics. Because I graduated and I got married and the babies were in a hurry to come, and we had agreed that I'd be a stay-home mom. So I didn't get to have my 2 years before the babies started coming to practice economics. So I never did. Now I'm in human resource management. But sometimes we end up doing things because people have told us there's good money, or because we've seen people who work there and we think they look good, whatever it is that is good in our eyes, whether it's the money or they just seem to have this position in society or whatever it is. And those kinds of workers may end up being the kind of worker that works as a duty. You know, this is my job. I happen to be an accountant. I make good money, but yeah, this is what I ended up doing. But maybe what he should have done was music, like somebody very close to me. Yeah, so there are others. By the way, both our children are musicians. One studied music up to university. The other one studied industrial chemistry, but they're both musicians. And the one who did industrial chemistry is the one who is more into it than the other one. But those ones, the work flows out of love for whatever they are doing, and they do it with passion. There are others also who end up in a field because they were encouraged to go into it for whatever reason, and they develop that passion. So I think there's a whole different set of factors that come into play to cause us to be passionate about the work. But what we can do again is to encourage our children or to encourage our workers to be their best wherever God puts you. Not all of us end up where we dreamt we would end up, but wherever we find ourselves, be our best and work as unto the Lord, as for the Lord and not for man.